There's a neighborhood in LA where homeowners are selling their property for 2 or 3 times what they paid for it not even 20 years ago. Beverly Grove homeowners, today's Nosy Neighbor Report is just for you. My name is Nick Cates. I am the LA off-market real estate expert. I bring together homeowners and rental property owners with real buyers, often cash buyers, in the private market. So let's talk about Beverly Grove. I've got a hot off the presses report that talks about what's happening in this particular neighborhood for January and February. And I have a complete report. And if you stick around to the end, I'll tell you how you can actually get a copy of the report for your own private use to help you understand how you fit in to the overall market. Now, if you don't know Beverly Grove is that amazing neighborhood just west of the Grove and Farmers Market, west of Fairfax. And today, I'm specifically talking about the area just south of 3rd Street. 3rd Street is the street in mid-city that is known for its cafes and coffee shops and boutiques that are some of the most popular in all of LA. Now, the neighborhood that we're talking about is a very charming, eclectic mix of 20s and 30s style single family homes, usually 3, sometimes 4-bedroom homes. And many of them are on 6,000 square foot lots. And they are 1920s, 30s vintage, and really, really popular, and iconic in the Los Angeles area. There's also a good mix of 2 to 4 unit buildings in the area. But what makes Beverly Grove so unique is that it's really coveted by developers and investors, more so than many of the other areas of LA, because of the large lot size. So what ends up happening often is that these properties are sold to developers who end up tearing them down, interestingly, and then they build 4 or 5, sometimes 6-bedroom mini mansions, modern mansions we call them, on those lots. So I want to talk about what that dynamic means here in 2026 and what's happening in the first 2 months of 2026, so you can get a sense of what's going on in the neighborhood. And we'll do a little bit of comparison as to how this first 2 months of the year compare to 2025. So in January and February of this year, there were 6 active listings. And of them, 4 were those original 20s and 30s vintage, type homes that had not been substantially updated. And then those were selling at an average price. Those 4, or actually the listing price was around $2.5 million on average. There were also 2 of the modern mansions that are listed in January and February, and they're listing for $4.2 million. So just about a little less than 2 times what the original properties were worth. Keep in mind, though, the economics of the mini mansion is, imagine buying the property for $1.8 to $2 million, putting another $1 million into developing it, or more sometimes, and then selling it for between $3.8 to sometimes almost $5 million. So there is some economics there, but we're just talking about what's listed. There was a modern mansion. I'm just looking at my notes here. Let's look at what was sold in January. So we talked about what was listed. There were actually 2 original homes that were sold in January, and that average sales price was $1.8 million. So you see that the sales price of 1.8 was a bit less than the average list price of $2.5 million in January of this year. There's also 1 modern mansion on Lindenhurst that sold for $3.7 million. So again, $3.7 million sold, but the average listing price was about $4.2. So there's I'm sure some specifics as to the actual home that sold, but it gives you an idea of the difference between listing price and sales price. There was also 1 multifamily that sold in this period for $3.7 million. But there were also, this is an interesting stat that you have to keep in mind, how many listings were canceled? Usually listings are canceled because they are not getting the price that the owner had in mind. So they take the property off the market, maybe they put it back on later. There were 4 listings during January and February of this year that were canceled during this period. But let's look at a comparison to 2025, 1 year ago, same time period, a year back. There were actually no active listings, interestingly, in 2025 during the same period. But there were 5 single-family listings that were canceled. So as opposed to being more active in the listing side, there were listings that were canceled. So no listings active, 5 listings that were canceled. But there were 3 modern mansions that were actually sold. No classic 20s and 30s style homes, but 3 modern mansions that were sold back in 2025 during this period. So my nosy neighbor report, I like to call it that because every homeowner who has property in a neighborhood wants to know a little bit about what's going on. So we cheekily call it the nosy neighbor report, but it gives a full breakdown and a list with all the addresses, all the sales prices, the list price, the sale price, days on market, those kinds of things. And if you would like to get a copy of that, you can certainly contact me to get, you can text or email me and I can get you that report so you can see a broader picture of what's happening in the local neighborhood. You might be interested to see the difference year over year. But I want to bring up an interesting point. The information in the report is just the public information that's listed on the MLS. But many homeowners are starting to realize there is a vibrant private market, an off-market marketplace where sellers who want to forego the public listing with the sign in the yard and the open houses and all that entails, and they rather use agents like myself to bring them actual buyers and or investors who will buy their property as is, no repairs, no concessions, at full market value. That information doesn't end up in these reports, although it does reflect the actual sales prices. The difference, the only main difference is the time on market. Typically, these properties can be sold in weeks as opposed to months, or they're sold at the pace of the desired pace of the owner. Maybe there's estate-related issues. Sometimes people are selling properties with or for their parents. Sometimes there's a need to relocate. Different situations call for different closing times. So there's that. But the numbers from the private market don't appear on the MLS, but they are reflective of the sales price. So anyway, the report that I have available for you, like I said, you can email me, you can call me or text me, and I can get you a copy of the report. Also, like and share this video with others who may also be interested in getting this kind of information. And if you want an actual report that's specific to your actual home and the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, condition, so forth, that's something more specific, I'm happy to give you a no obligation report for that. Just contact me and let me know. And if you are looking at this report, at this video, and you'd like to get a report for your neighborhood, definitely leave me a comment or contact me. I'd love to do a report for your neighborhood because every neighborhood in LA has special dynamics that affect it. And I'd be happy to share the information that would be helpful to you in your home ownership or landlord journey. So again, thank you. Like and subscribe, share it, and we'll see you guys on the next one.